How big of an issue is Kevin O'Connell's play calling? You scroll all over social media, you're going to see that he needs to be fired. You're going to hear other people say that he needs to relinquish play calling duties. What's the real story? How deep are the numbers? What context can we give them? I broke down the film all day today, and I have some really interesting data points to share with you. And we're going to talk about it all here on the Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Real Forno Show, sponsored by our friends at Underdog Fantasy, where with your first $5 play when you use the promo code Forno, you will get $100 in bonus credits. My name is Tyler Forness. With me as always, producer Dave, and I am going to blow your mind with some interesting data points when it comes to Kevin O'Connell's play calling, because that is all anybody can talk about today. And before we get into that, Dave, are you ready for this?
Sure.
It's quite an interesting one. We've already have people in the comments firing off, ready to rock and roll. So let's just get into it. Look,
And I love that.
oh, me too. I'm going to be honest with you. One of the big things with me is I've never been somebody to just go with the flow. I've always been somebody to just look at the information myself as unbiased as humanly possible. You can't eliminate all bias. You just can't. It's nearly impossible to do that unless you live in a vacuum. None of us live in a vacuum. None of us live in a chamber where we can just block out everything. You're going to get some things creeping into your head. You're going to get people that you don't really like or respect their opinions, and you're going to automatically want to shift to the opposite side. You're going to get people whose opinions you respect, and you're going to want to side with them because you believe that they're intelligent at what they do. That's just natural human, not emotion, but natural human behavior. So I go into this as open-minded as humanly possible to try and figure out what is the real answer. How bad is some of these KOC play calling issues? I'm going to give you a general synopsis, then we're going to break down the why. I think there's room for improvement, but there is no reason Kevin O'Connell shouldn't continue to be your play caller. One of the big things that was kind of taking over was the run pass ratio, where they had, what was it, 48 pass plays to 13 run plays. I think that was the ratio. Yeah, that's not good. I don't think anybody's going to sit here and tell you that that's good. 48 drop backs. 5 of those ended up being rushes. One of them was a sack, 42 pass attempts. But it's some of that needs context. It's nowhere near that high when you talk about neutral game script. And that in itself is important because, one, JJ McCarthy at the end of the first half, you're not going to run the football. If I'll pull that up here, because when I posted on Twitter just a little bit ago, I did not include that. They had the 3 passes that led into a punt right before the half. So you can take those out. And then there were 22 plays when the game script completely shifted at the end of the game when they were down 14. So essentially 25 plays where the game script was completely out of it. You are basically going to do nothing but pass. And in those, they still ran twice. So of those 13 designed rush plays, 2 of them were in game script where you were just kaput. You're basically going to do nothing but throw the football. Other than that, when you take a look at everything else, so you had 23 plays of the 48 dropbacks that were outside of neutral game script. So that means you have 11 designed runs and 25 designed dropbacks. Now, when you hear that ratio, that's still pretty hefty. That's just under 70%, but we're not looking at it like it's this absolutely crazy number where it's just so significantly high. It's still high, they should run the football more, especially with some of the success they were having in running the football. They were running duo and they were moving guys and making things happen on the ground. You should probably do a little bit more of that. Kevin O'Connell was asked directly on Monday, so earlier today, about some of the false starts. And it puts you behind the 8 ball. And one of the tough things, if you remember the Mike Zimmer era, toward the end especially, they would do nothing but run on 1st and 10. All of a sudden it's 2nd and 9, and they just run again. And then all of a sudden they're throwing on 3rd and long. So Kevin O'Connell is a little bit of the extreme opposite. He wants to throw a lot on 1st down. And by throwing, it can set yourself up for success. You can set up the run that way. And look, at the end of the day, he needs to run the ball more and there needs to be more of a focus. There is no argument on that here. What I'm trying to do is provide a little bit of context as to, hey, why are they passing? Is it working? And how much of this is execution? That's some of the discussion that we're having. And when you look at neutral game script, when the clock and or the scoreboard are telling you you can pretty much only throw the football, how are they handling it? And it's not as bad as that 48-13 number. One thing that I find really interesting when I watch back the film is there was a lot of meat on the bone. Oh boy, Dave, there was a lot left on the bone when it came to JJ McCarthy. And this is something that we talked about yesterday on the postgame show, which you guys should all go check out when you're done here. There were so many opportunities for the Vikings to make big plays. There were so many opportunities for the Vikings to, like, if JJ McCarthy just completes like 3 or 4 other passes, this could have been a win. And it's not crazy to think that way. That the one that everybody keeps talking about is the 3rd and 1 deep shot to Justin Jefferson. Kevin O'Connell was asked about it. He's like, I had a 4th and 1 play call ready to go that I was confident in. I would make that same play call again 10 out of 10. And he's right. And here's part of the issue. When you look at some of the overall numbers, so I have it from NFL Game Stats and Information. The Vikings have had a total of 24 plays, 3rd and 2 or less so far this season. 10 of them have been runs, 14 of them have been passes. They have only completed 1 first down when passing the ball. They've completed 7 rushing the football. So a 70% success rate in passing. They have had a, well, what is 14, 1 divided by 14, like a 7% success rate? Those numbers are tough. Those numbers are really tough to deal with. And I think one of Kevin O'Connell's biggest flaws here, Dave, isn't necessarily the fact that he's making individually bad play calls. So if you look at the micro and what each play is and why he's calling it, I don't think those play calls in a micro sense are bad. But I do think in a macro sense, when you take a look at a lot of data and you see, hey, you're not really completing any of these, maybe you should adjust your approach. I think that is an incredibly fair and spot on criticism where micro is completely fine. And that's what I've defended. I've defended when you look at each individual play call from a micro sense, completely fine. I think that Justin Jefferson shot was 100% warranted. I thought it at the time. I still think it now. And when you have your opportunities, when you have one-on-one single coverage with Justin Jefferson, you take it and you don't think twice. You have to. He's your best player. He's arguably the best player in football. You have to take that chance. And when you have a 4th and 1,
I understand that. Going for Jefferson on when he's one-on-one coverage. But that particular play, I was watching with Darren, and there was nobody lined up over the center. Why JJ just didn't go under center, snap the ball, sneak it, first down, then you have another opportunity to go for Justin Jefferson.
So
does the value of taking that shot, even though Justin Jefferson most of the time wins, does it outweigh just getting the first down on an easy first down?
Yes. And let me explain why. Some of this has to do with scheme. Some of this has to do with having the broad conversation about the chess match that is football. If you get the first down, that shot is gone. You're not getting it back. They're not going to all of a sudden have a defense set up for you to be able to take that shot. That's why in those situations when you are given the opportunity, you take it. I understand exactly the idea behind what you're saying. You have the center open, just run and get the first down. There's merit to that. It's the safe play. And you know what? It's going to continue the drive. Sure. Theoretically, when you have Justin Jefferson, a 50-50 ball becomes a 60-40 or a 70-30 ball. Justin Jefferson falls on that play 1 out of 100 times. And I think we're more mad at the results than we are with the process. As a general whole, and I'm not saying you and Darren fall in this bucket. I'm saying as a general whole, the reaction to what this play was is they're mad that it didn't work. But I think being mad at it not working and being mad at the process of it are completely different things. Because here's the other aspect. The Vikings have had 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 a total of 6 times this season. They've had 3 rushes and 3 passes, 2 conversions each. On 4th and 1, they've ran the ball 3 times. On 4th and 2, they've thrown all 3 times. And they're 2 and 3 on each. So some of it is they're just trying a little too much to take these shots. Some of it is the execution element because the micro versus the macro are just different things. And if you want to be the guy who says, hey, I'm just going to take the free first down. They're giving it to me. And you know what? Maybe Josh Allen takes that where he just like pinches his center's butt and be like, all right, let's go. Let's just sneak it and let's get it. But this is also a first-year starter in game 4. So maybe he doesn't feel enough confidence to make that play call. Maybe he's like, hey, we got Jefferson. We got to take a shot. And at the end of the day, that's how KOC has always lived. That's why Sam Darnold was so effective last year, because they would see those opportunities, they'd take them, and they'd be successful at them. There was no better deep ball thrower last year than Sam Darnold when you look at the numbers. He was first or second in every single major category. Completions, attempts, completion percentage, touchdowns, yards, you name it, he was right at the top. And the idea here is that, one, that ball looked like he was going to be pretty good. If Jefferson just stays on his feet, he's got inside leverage. He's got the ability to kind of push the defender back by changing his angle and being able to catch that football. Lone Wolf says, if KOC was successful, then the process would be okay. However, he fails 99% of the time. Look, some of the third and short plays passing have not been that successful. But one of the tough parts about this is, and where I think that internal conflict comes with KOC, is taking that shot is phenomenal process. You have the ability to go for it on 4th and short and be able to get it. And the Vikings have shown that they can do that. And you don't get opportunities like this to be able to throw a one-on-one shot to the best wide receiver in football. More often than not, even if you miss, you can still get the first down. I think you should take that shot every single time. And I defended it when they threw the fade route to Justin Jefferson with Cooper DeJean kicked out on coverage. They canned to that play because they saw, hey, we got single coverage against a slot corner. Let's take it. Let's absolutely take it and let the superstar make the play. And you know what? Corner gets paid too. And he knocked the ball out of Jefferson's hands as he was trying to extend and get away. But does calling that or changing the play to that at the line of scrimmage make it bad process because you have single coverage? I think we're more frustrated at the results, and that's okay. It's okay to be mad at the results. It's okay to be mad that it didn't work. And the tough part about this conversation is, and where I get to that internal struggle, is KOC trying to figure out, okay, I'm using good process. If you look analytically, it's a good process. If you look from a schematic standpoint, it's a good process. Well, if I continue to use good process, you will eventually get good results. But how many bad results am I willing to take in order to get those good results that are going to come the larger the sample size gets? That's the internal struggle. And I think that's where the fan base is. Because as Lone Wolf said, like, they're failing more often than not. And at what point do you make that shift? At what point are you willing to sacrifice the potential of trusting your best player because 1 yard is just, you just want to get that 1 yard and extend the drive? That's the internal struggle. That's the struggle between process and results. And it's a very tough one. I'm going to be on the side where I think KOC should always take these shots. If it's 3rd and 1 and you have the ability with single coverage, there was no high safety. It's 1-on-1. You see that pre-snap. I'll take that 10 out of 10. No questions asked. Because on 4th down, if, as KOC said, you have that run play in the bag ready to go, you take it. If you don't want to, if you want to go back to the days of the Mike Zimmer era where they're just going to run the ball on 3rd and 1 and hopefully get the 1st down, that's fine. I don't blame anybody for that at this point because they're 1-14 in these pass plays when it comes to these 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 situations. I will say, though, their 2nd down success is much better. They have had 10 total plays, and they have had 4 first downs. They're still finding a way to do it. It's just incredibly frustrating. And will they make a change? I don't know. But I'll tell you this. If they stop taking advantage of those one-on-one Justin Jefferson situations and they go with the 3rd and down runs, the one thing I ask is that you don't complain that they're not taking shots to Jefferson, because that's what we're asking for, right? It's okay to go the safer, more conservative route, but you can't complain about not taking shots when they're there because you wanted the change. That's all I ask.
Now, KOC, as I've said before, is obviously in love with hunting the big explosive plays.
There's
statistical reasons for it. They give you a better EPA. Better EPA means more wins, more points, more wins, and you end up like last year.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, and I have no problem with Justin Jefferson one-on-one. That was the right call. But you've got a young quarterback. You have a team that's just now getting healthy. You want to establish rhythm. Why not? I think KOC would be better not to stop hunting those long, explosive plays, but to take the easy stuff in between. Whether it be the sneak up the middle, right? Guaranteed 1st down because nobody's there to block it, to stop it. The linebacker isn't going to get there until you've already achieved it. Take shots to the intermediate part of the field more often because that's where your young quarterback is especially good at. And then when the opportunity presents itself, like it did on that 3rd and 1, go for the explosives. I think he would be more efficient at producing points doing it that way than to constantly be hunting those explosive plays. And then when they fail, suddenly we're getting behind the power curve. And we're playing from behind. We're chasing the score like we did in the 4th quarter. And then we're having to turn to nothing but the pass plays, which the defense knows, and they're going to pin their ears back, and they're going to cause more problems. That's what I want to see. I want to see KOC develop that. How to mix the good from all 3 depths into it.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think it's fair. I will say, I see Rap in the comments. 1, thank you. 2, we did talk about the stats. It's 1-14 on those pass plays, which in a macro sense is very bad. But if you watch a lot of those plays back in a micro sense, most of those play calls are fine. So it's a tough internal conflict that I think Kevin O'Connell is having right now. And
As well, he should.
oh, he absolutely should. There should be more running the football, and I don't think anybody should dispute that. I think how much they should have been running throughout the game. Once the game script got 14 down, they ran 22 plays, 20 passes, and 2 designed runs. There's only so much you can do at that point. But before that, outside of the 2-minute drill, it was 25-11. They could have done better. They should have done better. But some of that had to do with the fact that they kept getting behind the sticks because of those damn false starts. That's part of the problem. And with those those 3rd and ones, if you're given an opportunity to take a shot to Jefferson and you're in like the 50-yard line, that part of the field, which is where they were, that is the design time to take the shot. I'll defend that every time. 100%. I will defend that. Now, if it goes incomplete and you go for it on 4th down every single time and you have that run play and it gets you the 1st down, you've given yourself a chance to hit a huge play and then you've gotten the 1st down. If you want to just take that 3rd and 1 every time and go like, all right, let's run the ball. Let's just get the 1st down and figure it out later. That's fine. That is a completely valid opinion. That's a completely valid approach. All I ask is that you don't complain that we're not taking shots, because that's essentially what we're asking to give up. And that's okay. But we can't have it both ways. When there's an opportunity to take a shot to Jefferson, you got to take it. The Bengals do that with Jamar Chase. The Eagles do it with A.J. Brown. When you get that one-on-one coverage, you just got to go to your alpha. When this was the Randy Moss era, guess how many times they would just say, all right, screw the play, let's throw to him. That's what you do with the guy.
No, I understand that. And I'm not questioning the one play. We're fixating on that one play. It's the overall. It's
the one play.
All the 3rd and 4th and shorts.
That's a good portion of those 3rd and shorts, though.
Are you telling me on every one of those 3rd and 4th and shorts we had 1-on-1 with JJ? No.
I'm saying that I could easily go back and find you 3 or 4 where they're taking those.
And okay, I'm cool. But the others of that bunch, you didn't have that. No, so you need to go with the most. Somebody wrote it's not about betting, but it is. It's about you want the play that gives you the best chance to succeed and keep the drive alive. Yes, you want to score points. I got that. Mm-hmm. But if you keep the drive alive, you've got a fresh set of downs. And then you've got, with fresh set of downs, more opportunities to find stuff that's when Justin Jefferson's man up and that's it. He's 1-on-1. Then you take the shot.
And I think if there is no Justin Jefferson 1-on-1, there should be more running the football, hands down. I think, like I've said from the start here, in a micro sense, when you look at the individual plays, they're fine. But when you look at it from a macro sense, which is where some of this difficulty lies, and I think one of the reasons why KOC has struggled in this department is because, okay, I've set these guys up. I've got the right play for this. We can nail this. And then it doesn't work. In a macro sense, it makes it look significantly worse than the problem actually is. So I think they need to run the ball more in these situations. But I will defend every single time you have Jefferson in that spot. You need to take it 100% of the time. I don't care. I don't care about what the numbers look like from a macro sense. You take the shot. You take it if it's 2nd and 12. You take it if it's 1st down. If you see the one-on-one coverage and you have a play designed, ready to go, you take it. And that's the world I want to live in. If that's not the world you want to live in, I respect that. They need to run the ball more in some of these neutral 3rd down situations. If they're just running a basic coverage where you're not getting a guaranteed one-on-one shot with Jefferson, because this was, no doubt about it, there was no deep safety one-on-one. That's why I'm so staunch in defending this one play. But if it's just, you're just running stick, or if you're just trying to run dagger or like a dig route 10, 15 yards down the middle of the field, no, just run the ball. Don't complicate it. Just run the ball. In this instance, which is going to happen again, which we have already seen this year, that's why I'm so staunch in defending it, because you got to take those chances. You got to take the opportunity to hit those. And the kind of the next part of this whole conversation is so much meat was left on the bone. It's because you have a young quarterback who's struggling. JJ McCarthy, I likened it when I was having conversations last night. JJ McCarthy is like a teenager who wakes up and then just drinks like 4 Monsters. And then throughout the course of that 3-hour period, they just go from normal to just crazy hyper and completely just off the wall. It's almost like he has a caffeine drip, because you can tell that he's just way too amped up, and he needs to just, he meditates before games. Take a deep breath, calm down, and let the game come to you a little bit. You don't need to push it. You don't need to rush this stuff. And that, to me, was a massive, massive problem on Sunday.
I believe KOC is pushing it and rushing this stuff.
No, I'm talking about when JJ McCarthy
I understand what you're talking about. I'm just translating that same philosophy over to KOC. He's wanting to go from, all right, I got my little tyke of a quarterback here that I'm training up, and now I'm going to give him a full-blown master class and expect him to do it.
I'm going to be real. I don't agree with that. I do think that some of the playbook is limited. I don't think they're doing everything. I think they've got like their 10 to 12 core concepts and are kind of working with that, when a standard quarterback's probably going to work with closer to 20. But when I watch each individual play, he's not overwhelmed. He's not failing to go through progressions. It's not like the whole Carson Wentz experiment when it was just one and then dump it off. He's working through the progressions. He's seeing the field well. Part of the problem is he's a little slow on making the specific decision, and that's a decent reason why they were getting so many batted balls. He's making hitches unnecessarily. There was early in the game, I think it was the second drive, maybe it was the first drive, there was a little out route to Aaron Jones on second down. He's a split second late to that because he takes a hitch. If he doesn't take that hitch, Aaron Jones can turn upfield for another 5 to 10 yards. Those little details matter a significant amount when it comes to these conversations. And the big thing with McCarthy is you're going to have those. He's seeing the field well. He's making pretty good decisions for the most part, other than I think the Roquan Smith non-interception. He forced that one late game. That's a really good that's a really good learning experience. And that first interception where he tried to force it with a deep safety, when you look at the all 22 copy, I think McCarthy believes that Malachi Starks, the deep safety, is going with the corner, because you have Adam Thielen running a deep corner to the other side of the field with a post or seam like bender route coming in on the near side. I think he feels the safety is going to follow that, but the safety stays home and ends up getting the interception. That's what I think the thought process was. I also think he was just bad process. He should have just ran the football, because he could have deked to the linebacker out in the second level and gotten a first down. I thought he got way too greedy on that. The other interception I thought was just fine. There were so many other instances where there could have been bigger plays. There was a dig route to Jalen Naylor over the middle of the field. The main read on that throw was TJ Hawkinson on a wheel, because they had run a few screens earlier in the game, and they had Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson to the far side, and they had 3 receivers to the near side. Jefferson runs a fake screen, and then Hawkinson from the slot runs a wheel route, and he's wide open. All you got to do is lay the ball in there like you did with Naylor, and you maybe have a touchdown. He doesn't feel comfortable with it, with the safety playing a deep half, and he doesn't feel comfortable with that honey hole shot. So he hits Naylor on the dig, and it's like a 15-yard gain to first down. There's nothing wrong with it, but there was more meat on the bone. There was a missed touchdown to Jordan Addison, where Addison, this is late in the game. He's on the on the left side of the field, and he's running a deep over. So by the time JJ, he maneuvers in the pocket, he sees it, he throws it, it gets batted down. That was a surefire touchdown. There are little things that were missed, that some of it is execution based, some of it's the defense gets paid too. Some of it's JJ not quite being fast enough with the decision-making process, because he sees the field well. He understands what's going on in front of him, but he needs to be a little quicker in making that decision. That will come with time. And when that time does come, theoretically, this offense is going to be really, really humming. But it's not consistent with any way, shape, or form yet. And those all kind of compile into this 20 of 42 day where it's just brutal. It's just, we're dealing with the young quarterback thing right now. And there's so many frustrations from a lot of different layers. And I know Lone Wolf put in the chat that he was frustrated about like the macro micro, but that's also a big part of it. Because if you look at one decision from a micro level and you look at it, hey, this one decision in this spot was a good one, but the results didn't work. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again. Like that's just basic science. And when you look at it from a macro level, that's where the difficulty comes in, because, hey, all these good micro decisions that just didn't work. Well, now do we need to shift our process completely? How do we need to shift it? That can be the difficulty when it comes to play calling, because you can look at it on Monday and think something completely different when you're in the game and the flow is right and you've set the team up. And that's where football is kind of like that big chess match, right? I've set them up for this play. It's 3rd and 1. I got it. We've been baiting them all day for this. And then it just doesn't work. Well, it's really hard to go against that. And I think that's the internal struggle they're having right now. And I'll be honest, I think the Vikings have not done a very good job of scouting themselves on an overall level. Otherwise, I think we would have seen more running the football at this point on those 3rd and short opportunities from a macro perspective. But that's kind of where we're at. We've got an internal struggle, in my opinion, with Kevin O'Connell. It's one that probably isn't going to go away. But I'll tell you this, when you watch the tape, I really don't see anything on there, Dave, that says that the Vikings need to change their play caller. They need improvements. They need to put more of a focus on running the football. But I don't think we're in this, oh my God, this is an abject disaster and we need to make drastic changes. I don't think we're there.
Well, we'll find out. In the micro, as you put it, looking at every single play, most of those decisions look good. Yeah. I was asked, we got Chris talking about why don't they throw more to TJ Hawkinson. In the micro, he's not open or somebody else is in the progression, so they throw to the other person.
I'll pull it up. KOC talked about it today.
In the macro, it looks like, hey, we just threw to him twice. You're throwing to your tight end twice, and you expect success? It seems like the formula's off. If you're going to go the science route, you have, you're trying to do something, and so you get little bits and pieces and go, hey, this will work. But when you throw all those little pieces together, it's not working together.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying he needs to be able to adjust his game calls to be more efficient. He talks about the efficiency all the time. He needs to do that.
Yeah, he does. There needs to be adjustments. And throughout this conversation, I think I've been very fair in saying they need to run the ball more. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And on an overall level, they need to run the ball more on 3rd and short. But if you get the opportunity in that situation to throw a one-on-one to Jefferson, I'm taking it every time, and I'm okay if that's not the popular opinion. Um, so I want to address the Hawkinson thing before we get any further. KOC was asked straight up about Hawkinson. There were multiple instances where they were trying to get the ball to Hawkinson, and it didn't work. There was a pass interference on Hawkinson, and there were opportunities where, hey, he's the number one guy, and they weren't able to get it to him. There was one instance where it was a batted ball, and Addison was wide open. You could have run a semi truck through the defense to how open Addison was. The first read was Hawkinson on an option route, a choice route on the other side of the field. Now, a more experienced quarterback probably doesn't go to that side of the field initially anyways, and this is where some of it is you're just dealing with a young quarterback. Because the way the defense was with too high over the top, you just automatically come back to that 15-yard dig, and that's a first down, easy pitch and catch. Darnold probably makes that. Kirk Cousins probably makes that. But J.J. McCarthy's not quite there yet. And this is where some of the struggles come in, why the fact that there's so much meat on the bone is a really important thing. Here's what KOC said specifically about TJ Hawkinson. It's a long one. Said, yeah, I thought we had a chance at the third down conversion to Jalen Naylor over the middle. I mentioned that one earlier. TJ was really the primary out of the red line, kind of simulating a screen that we had run early in the game to Aaron Jones against the Lions, got the defense to bite. That was that wheel route over the top. JJ McCarthy was playing fast and just got off it, but we ended up converting to Naylor over the middle. But I think the biggest thing is TJ is a major part of what we do. And a couple of those false start penalties, he's the primary and kind of those more manageable down and distances. And then you start thinking about 10 plus and protection and trying to convert on some of those throws. But it's no excuse. We got to get TJ involved in the game more. We got to find him, because you're absolutely right. We need those. We need those plays. Talking about those, a lot of those choice routes where they'd get those first downs. They've been a huge part of our offense since we acquired him, for sure. And then when you're looking at some of those block shots, I think we had 4. All 4 of those were looking at a backside in cut to Jordan Addison's. Going to be an explosive. Probably in the red zone on the last one is going to be a touchdown. If not getting back to TJ on the backside of that progression. And just some of those things when you're not totally synced up and you're kind of reaching a little bit at times, it felt like we're pressing once we got down, especially. And then when you consider we had none of those pre-snap penalties in the first quarter, but then you got to 2, 2, and 4 the rest of the way, just kind of putting ourselves in a tough spot that gets you out of those down and distances where TJ has always been pretty significant for us. And what he means is, if it's third and like 4 to 8, it used to just be they would spam a choice route to TJ Hawkinson and they throw it over the middle. That Jaguars game, when he came back last year, on one drive, he had 4 consecutive third down conversions. 4 of them. They know how important he is, and they want to get him involved. Sometimes it's a matter of circumstance where they can't get him involved. And that's a difficult thing, right? It's very frustrating. It's very annoying. And you have to find a way to kind of make that happen and make that work. Right now, they're not doing it, but they need to find a way to do it. And we'll see if they can make it happen. We'll see if they can figure that out. But right now, there's a lot of outside things that are preventing TJ Hawkinson from getting super involved. And some of them aren't even his fault. Like, he had to do a lot of chipping when you didn't have Darrison O'Neal. And he's either getting covered or other guys are coming open. Like, it's a tough one. But his presence in the offense is still doing a lot for this team. And I think they're going to find a way to get him involved over the course of the next few games. They're already trying. There's other things at play. Like, they tried to get Addison and Jefferson involved. They had 23 targets and 7 catches. Sometimes it's not as simple as, hey, we just need to get this guy involved. There's different layers to it. And I think that context, especially with Hawkinson, has been really important to understand, hey, he may not be doing this for us, but he's still involved in the play. He's still getting open, and he's helping other guys get open at the same time. It's a very nuanced conversation.
Yep. Tight ends do stuff more than just go out for passes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to see TJ more involved.
You and me both. Let's go to this question from Chris, because I think this is a really important one when it comes to kind of how I'm seeing this. He says, Forno, you weren't as high on McCarthy as Thor was going into the draft. Are you seeing some of the pre-draft criticisms some had of McCarthy? My biggest pre-draft criticism of McCarthy was we didn't know what he was, because he did not have a lot on tape. He had small sample sizes of pretty much everything that you thought was good or that you thought was bad. And that to me was the biggest red flag. But that doesn't necessarily mean bad. It just means you have to account for a variable that you just don't have an answer to. Whereas I thought with how much more experience May had at just throwing the football, because they both started 2 years, but May had like 300 more attempts than McCarthy, and he was in more situations where he had to throw the ball than McCarthy. And therefore, you had answers to some of those questions where we didn't have those, or I didn't think we had those with McCarthy. Thor was uber confident on McCarthy in ways that I was uber confident on Drake May. I thought that we had a much bigger sample size of some of those on May. And I think so far I've been proven right in that. But that doesn't mean McCarthy won't or can't be a very good quarterback. I thought it was a good fit for the Vikings as far as stylistically what JJ's really good at and what the Vikings love to do. I just think we're going through, this kid is 22 years old. He's the second youngest starting quarterback in the National Football League, and he just needs time. Just needs time to grow and develop within the system. And you need to figure out a way to work within some of these constraints where he's just going to be volatile. A guy like Sam Darnold on some of these rollout throws where JJ McCarthy's just missing them wildly, Darnold makes those. And I think a couple years of experience will iron that out. But right now, you're getting the volatile production because you have a young quarterback who just does not have a lot of experience. And I think that's okay. But we're just going to have to ride the roller coaster. That's the path we chose. It's the path we all asked for. And the fact that it's not going swimmingly, I think, was ourselves as a collective whole failing to set proper expectations, myself included. I thought if you just put McCarthy in, you got average quarterback play, that we'd be just fine. But we haven't even gotten average quarterback play yet. It's been incredibly volatile. This is the best quarterback we've ever seen, and bad. That's really the two levels of McCarthy that you get. He's fantastic or he's rough. And there hasn't been a lot of in between. I want to see more from him. I want to see him continue to grow. And I think we're going to get that over time. But right now, we don't quite have that yet. And you know what? That's okay.
He's only 4 stars. Too Evil.
Yes. Too Evil says, fire Kwesi in the sun. KOC needs Dayball to call plays. I was asked this earlier. Dayball and KOC don't come from the same tree. They have different philosophies when it comes to running an offense, so I don't think they would necessarily be a good match. I think Dayball working with Josh McDaniels might make sense if Dayball wants to go back to being a position coach. That's kind of more his style. He doesn't do a lot of the stuff that the Vikings like to do on offense. But I do think that there's merit in bringing in
explosives.
Mm-hmm. I do think there's merit in trying to figure out and listen to outside voices to try and find answers to questions. It's one of the reasons why when we had conversations about like, what do the Vikings need to do? A lot of people want to fire Chris Cooper. I know, Dave, you're one that does not like his style. I think Chris Cooper's been fine, but I think one of the things is, even if you're a good coach, sometimes a new voice can be needed. I think the job he's done with Blake Brandel over not just the past few games in making him a very capable starting center. I think he's done a good job with Donovan Jackson. And I think he's done a good job of just developing some of these younger guys as a whole. Because remember, people want to think Darisaw was this stud coming in. He was very good as a rookie. But you need to give Chris Cooper a lot of credit for getting him to that next level, which Cooper's had him since Darisaw's second year. There's a lot of good with what he's been able to do. But sometimes a new voice is necessary, and that's okay. because it's like the Tony Dungy thing. Tony Dungy did so much for Tampa Bay that they brought in a new voice with that same roster and they won a Super Bowl. Sometimes you need that change. And maybe they need that change with a guy like Wes Phillips, who is mainly his job is game planning and play design, which both have been mostly good. But sometimes when you talk about the procedural stuff, a lot of times that falls on the offensive coordinator. The Vikings have had an absurd amount of procedural penalties. They have more false starts than any team in the National Football League. They have 19 false starts this year. That's bad. That's very bad. And the being able to get up to the line of scrimmage quickly, that job falls on the offensive coordinator, usually to be able to get personnel in and out. There are little things that are just falling through the cracks. And that's where I think maybe a new voice can help. But sometimes it's just, hey, things are going well, so we just want to fire everybody. It's fair. I get it. But I don't know if firing any of these guys actually helps the Minnesota Vikings right now. After the season, maybe it's different. But right now, how does changing play callers to somebody who's never called plays help the Minnesota Vikings? How does firing your offensive line coach in the middle of the season help the Minnesota Vikings? I don't think they help. I think it's wanting to place blame and have the accountability that's visible. Visible accountability to the fan base is somebody gets fired and loses their job. Whereas there is accountability, but we don't see it. There's accountability in meeting rooms. There's accountability on the practice field. There's accountability on game day with how many snaps you get. But because it's not as tangible of a thing as, oh, X player or coach got benched, cut, or fired, then I think that there can be some internal frustration, which is completely fair. But right now, I don't think that there's a singular move that will help the Minnesota Vikings by removing somebody from their position. Yeah. Let's kind of wrap this up. I think one of the big things here is, and I know kind of keeping an eye on the chat all night, a lot of you don't agree with me. And that's okay. Hey, here's the thing. I don't think I'm 100% right. But one thing is I put in a lot of time watching the film, and I looked at the data, and I tried to come to what I thought was a fair conclusion. And I'll bring up one more piece of information. So in the analytical world, they have these stats like completion percentage over expected, where if you expect this ball to be completed and it wasn't, it's a way to adjust for standard completion percentage. You look at stuff like drops and some of that data. They have pass rate over expected. So the Vikings only finished 1% over expected when it came to pass rate. So that's taking account down and distance, game situation. And in theory, they only threw the ball 1% more than they should have. If you want to go look at this stat, rbsdm.com. Running backs don't matter. It's Ben Baldwin's analytical website. You can look at EPA per play. You can look at the pass rate over expected. You can look at offense and defense, quarterbacks. You can look at heat maps. You can look at specific games box scores. You can look at all of that. That data is available to you. And I challenge everybody to go look at it, go watch the game film on NFL Pro, and try to come to your own conclusions. I think that's important. I don't think, and Vic Ryder says, I don't agree with my wife, but I'm not leaving. Yeah. You shouldn't agree with everything that anybody you listen to says. That would be a cult. My challenge to you is take the information you heard and go form your own opinion. Go watch the film and look at the data, and then come back and leave some in the comments and say, hey, this is what I think after doing all that research and watching all the film, reading all the stats. Because I think there's more meat on the bone, more bites to the apple than just the standard, oh, KOC stinks, he needs to go. They need to run the ball more. Okay. But they don't need to run the ball like 40 times more. They just add like 6 or 7 runs. Take 6 or 7 passes out, add 6 or 7 runs. And from those neutral game script situations, all of a sudden you're looking at 19 passes and 17 rushes. That feels a lot better, doesn't it? The 20-2, you're pretty much not going to be able to change that because of what the game looked like. But if you can make it a little bit more neutral and balanced, because balance doesn't mean 50-50. Balance means you are like, they buy the threat of a run just as much as they buy the threat of a pass, and then you can manipulate. Then you can manipulate defenses. Like that to me is balance, where at any point in time, I believe that you can take advantage of me with the run and the pass, and I got to take both into consideration. And so on some of those 4th and shorts, yeah, maybe teams are starting to lean a little more towards the pass. Now you can just pound the run as long as you don't have that deep shot available to you. I think if Kevin O'Connell can see that from a macro perspective that, hey, maybe something else needs to change, then we could see some improvement. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you go and take a look at NFL Pro and look at some of those pieces of data, and you come back and let me know what you think, because I would love to hear in the comments what you see when you watch the all 22. You see how many open receivers there are, and they just can't hit it because one, McCarthy missed wildly, or two was batted down at the line of scrimmage. I want to hear what you think from, hey, where should they have run instead of thrown the ball? Some of those plays. Where should they have had changes? Because I think when we watch the game copy on Sundays, we can have a completely different viewpoint when we watch it back. Because when we watch it on Sundays, we're missing some context because we don't see the whole field. We're way more emotionally invested, and that can skew our opinions, myself included. I am not void of that. And then when we go back and watch with a more analytical brain, analytical mindset, by watching and trying to see what's going on instead of being excited, like, I just want a touchdown. I just want a touchdown. Then I think we can come up with different conclusions. And I challenge all of you to go do that and let us know. I want to have conversations with everybody on this. So please come to the comments, go to the Vikings First and SKOL Discord, where you can go have a long form conversation with me. If you are a member of this YouTube channel, there is 2 channels available to you: an Ask Me Anything and a Rumor Mill channel, where there's still a lot of interesting stuff from the trade deadline that you can go back and read through. So go check those out. Let us know what you think, because I'm going to be steadfast, and I think KOC was called a pretty good game on Sunday, where there should have been some adjustments. There should have been things he did better. But overall, he can't make the throws. He can't make the catches. He can only put players up in position to succeed, and they still have to do it. Coaching ends at Sunday at 11:59 a.m. Once you step onto that field and you cross that white line, coaching's done. It's time to make plays. And they didn't make enough of them.
Well, technically, no, but okay.
Well, I mean, there can still be some coaching on the sidelines, like in between possessions, but for the most part, once they can't, you can't fix technique, you can't install plays. It's once the plays
the coaches
called,
can't go out there on the field and say, hey, put your hand this way, step that way.
Yep. JJ's got to make better throws. He's got to find passing lanes, because look, he's not small, but he's 6'2". He's got to slide over, and he's got to create some throwing lanes at times. And I think the Ravens pass rush did a great job of getting their hands up and batting balls down. Kudos to them. Defense gets paid too. But overall, I think there's still reason to be optimistic on offense. There's not a ton of it, but there's good reason to be optimistic. And I think you should come out of this game thinking, if 5 plays go differently, I mean, you can look at most games like this. 5 plays on offense go differently, the Vikings could have had 35 points. Dead ass. They could have had 35 points. And they're close. But they have to find a way to execute on those 5 plays. Will they? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they run the ball more too, because with neutral game script, they need to do that. And they're not. There's a wide conversation about this whole thing. Run the ball a little more. Focus on helping your young quarterback. And I think this week they need to just help him focus on calming down. Play within yourself. Don't get overamped, because I think that was a big reason why later in the game his ball's starting to get crazy inaccurate. He was just trying to win every throw. You can't do that. You can't win every throw. Just get a first down, move on. And I think he's going to get that on an overall level.
Hey, it is what it is.
Yep.
Now we have
go ahead.
A game to watch.
Yeah.
Green on green crime. However, I hope the team with the bird team wins.
Yes. This is one of the few times I will cheer for the Philadelphia Eagles. Boo Packers. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back on Thursday for sure. Potentially a special guest for Bears week. We'll find out. I have to confirm with them. We'll have an X's and Skulls later this week as well. And who will be king will not be on this network unless it's podcast. Dave will put it on the podcast feed, but it will be
podcast. Yeah.
It will be on Bleachers to Speakers. Dave will share that link in the post. We've been doing a lot of posts lately, so you're going to want to check those out. And thank you guys very much. I'm Tyler. He's Dave. SKOL Vikings.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love, our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone!